In no way, shape, or form are we here to tell you what to buy, sell, trade, or anything in between. We are simply here to show you guys what we do in terms of research. Because for us, when it comes to long-term holding, um, it is an absolutely crucial step in the process. Before you do anything, you need to know what you're about to invest into. So we're going to show you the things like we do every day, every week, how we break down what we look for in a project, and hopefully it inspires you to go out there and do the same. Um, Again, we're not paid actors. We are not paid shills. We are here to show you why it's important to do the research. We're not always going to come to the same conclusion. Honestly, it makes for better interaction anyways. But what it is important is that we do challenge the narratives, that we go through the details, and that we, more importantly, challenge you guys to do the same. Because at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. We're here to show you a different side of a coin, right? So we hear about TA all the time. We hear about trading all the time. Well, hey, you know what? There is also another avenue, and that is someone who is into more of a long-term aspect, into something that we think is very important in utility, and what that means. So that's what we break down every day. We're going to do it here. At the end of the show, we are going to have a chance for you guys to vote on what project you want to do next week. So stay tuned. We're going to give you a list of things we've already done. You can actually look at those videos on our YouTube page, Blockchain Bullies YouTube page, and soon I'm hoping, I think it's already started, but you can go to our Utility Unlocked YouTube page too to see your favorite coin and or coins you're interested in, and find out what we had said back in the day. Because we've been doing this for like, I don't know, this must be like episode 20? Am I?
Not for me, but for you guys.
Okay. So
yeah, we got to be 6 months into it.
Yeah.
Excuse me. The other thing too, guys, this is a show that really relies also on you guys, your participation. So if there is any IOTA people out there who have been long-term holders, or you've done your research and you want to add to the conversation, please feel free to ask your questions in the chat. I'll write them down. I'll ask the guys and girl, host
People.
and hostess, fellow investors. I'll ask them at the end of the show what they, any of your questions. So please feel free to ask them in the chat. And if you see something that we haven't found, or we didn't look at, or you want to question something we've said, put it in the chat. We'll approach at the end or we will address it at the end of the show. Did I miss anything, guys?
No, thank you guys so much for being here week after week. Can you guys see this? Might be a little difficult. All right. So as always, before we talk about IOTA, we're going to jump into the real world problem, and I actually think that this one is actually pretty easy to understand. So it's pretty evident that the whole world is becoming more digital. We have products that are becoming more digital. The supply chains are going digital. Businesses are becoming digital. Even the governments are becoming digital. And these machines as well are going digital, and devices need to be connected. But there is an issue with all of that, right? Even though it seems as if the world is becoming more connected, these systems are extremely disconnected, okay? These devices and these machines in terms of communication. And we see it because we have one company that has its own database, while a completely different company has their own database, a supplier has their own system, and a manufacturer has their own system. And inevitably what ends up happening is these systems don't have a capability to communicate with one another very efficiently. So what ends up happening is the data gets trapped, their records kind of get fragmented, and their information of the exchanging of information between them becomes much harder to verify between these companies, and inevitably that kind of leads us into an issue of trusting the information. because if we're at a point where nobody can prove where something came from or who touched it or whether the information was altered, then the system kind of still has to depend on blind trust. And I think that that's kind of a really big issue that we are moving into, especially if the entire world is kind of moving more digital and we're moving into a state where we are really relying on transparency. We want the ability to be able to track a lot of the information that is moving. And inevitably, with things that are kind of becoming more digital, there's going to be more automation, and compliance will kind of become a big issue with that. So we need the ability to verify and to trust the information that we are receiving. So as the world kind of becomes more digital, we're going to have to figure out a way for the infrastructure behind it to not be fragmented anymore, right? We need to find a way that we can verify the real world information, and we have the ability to connect the data more efficiently. So that's really the problem that IOTA is kind of jumping out there to solve, right? The big idea is that in the physical world, there needs to be a trusted digital layer. And with this layer, this is where you'll have the ability for data to move, value will be able to move. We could track the assets. We'll have the ability to move the products. These products will be able to be tracked, and the machines can actually communicate with one another. And it's just inevitably going to be information that we can actually verify the activity. And IOTA's whole thesis is that it is really about the machine economy and the Internet of Things, right? The IoT, while also connecting these devices. So what they're striving to do is create this infrastructure for a world where there are billions and billions of devices and companies and systems that are going to eventually have to exchange information and value. Do you guys want to touch up on the real world problem?
I think I would just say that a lot of it is document based as well. So documents take days and weeks to travel. Blockchain is instant, reliable. Also, that I would just say the World Economic Forum estimates this inefficiency costs the global economy trillions of dollars every year. And it's disproportionately, it locks out smaller global economies and emerging markets. So it's also, the problem is that, and the solution is IOTA trying to connect those emerging markets and smaller economies as well. So
Yeah, it's even stated here. The fraud in trade documents is $2 trillion annually. So there is a big market to kind of be able to verify the information that is being exchanged.
I would just add something I've added before. One of my friends is a major CEO for a brand we all know and trust, and no, not trust, know and love. I personally hate the brand, but that's neither here nor there. However, one of the volleyball weekends we were talking, and I asked him. I said, what do you think of crypto? And his response was, crypto, not so much. Blockchain and what the capabilities are for to offer solution to big business. That is something that he could get behind. And it was interesting, that conversation, because obviously I had a very specific viewpoint, and to see it coming from a major CEO to say the necessity for something like for blockchain, what IOTA is trying to do is something that could save tens of millions on the bottom line. So yeah, I think this is something that is necessary for the entire world.
yeah,
Absolutely. Let's
good point.
let's jump into the actual tech stack, right? So what is IOTA? At its core, IOTA is a layer 1 blockchain, and the core idea is that they wanted to build it originally around the Internet of Things, which basically means that there is a world out there with machines and devices and vehicles and sensors and businesses and all these different types of digital systems, and there is a need, really a necessity for these to eventually be connected, and those systems are going to need to share data and value between one another. So I want you guys to kind of think of IOTA as machines communicating with other machines. Now, one of the things that made IOTA different from other traditional blockchains is that it was built around something called Tangle. Okay, now the Tangle is not it's not a normal blockchain, right? A normal blockchain is gonna typically organize transactions into blocks, and those blocks are gonna get added one after another in a straight line, and that's why they call that blockchain. But with Tangle, we have something a little bit different, right? Um, Inevitably, the whole idea is that this was supposed to make the system more scalable, more useful for transactions or machine to machine activity. So if you're trying to build this kind of infrastructure, if you're trying to deploy this type of infrastructure for machines and devices, it's very important that the machine economy needs some sort of infrastructure that's very quick. Okay, it needs something that can handle a lot of activity. So that was the original IOTA pitch. But we also have to kind of shoot straight with you guys here, because the old, I'm sure Caveman will get into it, but the old aspect of IOTA kind of had some real issues. It had a really big vision, but people were kind of concerned about its decentralization aspect to it. People were kind of also worried about the execution, right? People were wondering whether or not the technology was actually ready for the real world when it was kind of coming into fruition. And basically, IOTA was trying to modernize itself. So instead of kind of only being known for the older Tangle, IOTA is now trying to become a stronger layer one blockchain that is also including staking, and they have validators and smart contracts now. So overall, better utility token. But now these smart contracts that they kind of jumped into it are going to allow these developers to build applications on the network. The validators are going to be able to secure the network a little bit stronger. The stakers are going to be able to participate in the economy and the rewards. And the fees that are kind of entangled with the blockchain are going to kind of create a, I guess, clearer connection between the network activity and the actual token. But the reason that I brought up the old version to the newer version of IOTA is so that you guys can see the progression as Caveman is going to jump into from Tangle and these connected devices and machine to machine communication or machine economy into this newer, modernized layer one, where they're actually trying to engage with investors and developers and kind of keep that while also keeping that real world infrastructure vision. Thoughts, ladies and gentlemen?
No.
There's been lots of changes with this project. Lots.
Good ones, though.
Yeah, sure. We're going to go over it after. So, in its theory, conceptually, originally, of like, what it wanted to do, I'm I want to talk about like what you just talked about, okay, Willie? I feel sort of like, this is my own perspective, of course. I feel like it's like, hey guys, I'm gonna build you a ticketing system for our missions to Mars. But we don't actually have that situation yet. We don't have the world in which we can actually send people to Mars yet. But I'm gonna build it first, and I think that's kind of where they found themselves originally, and I think that's probably why they had to pivot and adapt and change as many times as they did to kind of, I don't even want to say catch up to reality, but slow back and get back to where reality is, as opposed to like, hey Mars, we're gonna start coming to you now. And it's an analogy. I'm not saying they're going to Mars. I'm just saying that like that's kind of where I see them at the beginning. That's what they're doing, and so.
And it's pretty cool because you start to see, I guess, their consideration or their priorities. Not that the priorities shifted, because I still believe that they are trying to enable this machine economy, but they are really kind of putting in a lot of effort to ensure that the network is continuing to move and the transactions are finalized, so that when that infrastructure finally does catch up for this solution, that the infrastructure is built for it, right? They're really trying to get the nooks and the crannies out, but they're also trying to engage with your average crypto bro, I guess you could say.
We will.
I agree with all that you said and have nothing to add. Am I next? Or does Bully have one more thing?
No, I'm good.
Well,
I'm good.
let's go to core team.
All right. Let me get back to my team. So the chair and co-founder is Dominic Schneer. He started in blockchain as a teenager and has grown into the primary architect of IOTA's current strategic direction. He is the one that drives the twin trade infrastructure strategy and the ADAPT initiative. And he was personally in closed-door discussion with Malaysia's Minister of Science, Technology, and Innovation during Malaysia's Blockchain Week in 2025. The original founding team includes David. These names are tough.
Good luck.
David Soonstaber, who brought an IoT and distributed systems background. Sergei Paviv, a mathematician who authored the original Tangle white paper, and Sergey Ivanchiglo, known for Come From Beyond, who was responsible for protocol design before departing in 2019. And I'm sure Caveman will touch on that, why and how. The foundation added Karen O'Brien as Chief Marketing Officer in October 2025 and brought on Manuel Vagalis, an executive communications administrator who is also serving as interim head of communications for Twin. In Q1 2026, they established IOTA Expert Advisory Board made up of 6 industry veterans across customs, logistics, trade policy, port systems, and technology. These are people who have spent careers in the actual system IOTA is trying to modernize. And then there's Shahad Kahan. He was second to IOTA directly from the UK Cabinet Office to work on Twin. That is a civil servant from the British government physically working on IOTA's infrastructure. Tony Blair, so the foundation also holds an AFCFTA partnership involving Tony Blair Institute and the World Economic Forum, and it has government-backed pilots running in Kenya, Morocco, and Nigeria. Yeah, that's what I get for team.
And it is a German-based foundation, right?
Yep, that's right. Yep.
Tokenomics?
No wonder those names were so hard.
Oh, yeah.
I know. And they were from, they were tricky. But okay, so tokenomics. The original IOTA supply was 2.78 billion tokens. Just to touch, and you guys can say yay or nay, but I was going to touch on Twin and Adapt in tokenomics, or do you want to wait on those? Because it's wait. Okay. So
yeah,
but it's important to it, but I wasn't sure. So
actually, tell you what, when I do get to that, because I will probably need a break, can you just say, hey?
Yeah, this is what it is. And definitely. Yeah. Okay, so the original supply, I just did that, distributed entirely at Genesis through community crowdfunding.
So did you say 2 billion?
2.78 billion.
I have 4.6 billion.
The originals? This is the original supply.
Okay.
So there was more, wasn't there more added later? Okay. Yeah. So the original was 2.78 billion tokens distributed entirely at Genesis through a community crowd fund. There was no mining, no VC pre-mine, no insider allocation. The rebased upgrade expanded the total supply to 4.6 billion through vesting schedules applied to existing holders, bringing current circulating supply to approximately 4.4 billion IOTA. That's circulating supply. The fully diluted value sits at about 230 million against a market cap of 198 million. So there's not a large overhang of unlocked supply to worry about in the near term. Post rebase protocol runs a dynamic insurance issuance model, generating approximately 6% annual inflation, directed entirely to staking rewards. A fee burn mechanism is designed to offset that issuance, but the offset is directly tied to network activity. And that's why I was going to jump into the other, but I won't. So let's see. The relationship, yes. So on staking, 50.3% of the total supply is currently staked, which is a high participation rate for an asset. There are between 67 and 72 active validators as of June 2026, with a median APY of 11% paid in IOTA tokens per epoch. The network has epoch, whatever, something, epoch. No, not whatever. I'm just kidding. The network has 4.74 million active addresses and has processed 666 million transaction blocks. The Nakamoto coefficient sits at 7, meaning the top 10 validators control 43.6% of stake. The all-time high was $5.69 in December 2017. That was narrative. I'm sure Caveman will get into that. And the current price is, I think, 3 cents today.
Yeah.
Great buy. I'm just kidding. Don't buy. Do your own research. And so let's see. That's about what I have. So the 52-week high is 26% on May 29th. A whale-driven 14% rally was confirmed by futures data, and it's down 99% from its all-time high. Yeah.
Do you guys want to talk a little bit about what you're looking at with this chart right now?
I mean, it's not the same thing. What you're looking at the beginning isn't the same project.
So it's not the same project, and also the $5. So that was a little bit of a misconception. So it was put out that there was 3 big partnerships. I think it was Microsoft, Bosch, and one other one. I'm not sure exactly. Yes, thank you. Yep. And so that was all retail hype, FOMOing in because of these partnerships. And it turned out to not really be partnerships. A little misleading, but yeah, that's the biggest all-time high. But
it was a top 10 in market cap, right? Not that me in market cap, I'm not a big fan, but it was one of the majors in 2017, I think.
It was, yeah.
So people were FOMOing in, as they say, right?
Yeah.
What do you think? What's your take on it, Bully?
I think it's just like any other project. If you do believe in the utility of it, that's why we address the real world problem, and then we show you the solution that it is trying to go. If you do believe that we are moving into a more digital world where devices and machines are going to have to communicate, try to find some other solution for it. If you can't, maybe this is something that you think could be successful, but of course we present to you a lot of other factors to consider. For me, at least, I like when the charts are sideways. I like when the price action is boring. And I do think that this is a problem that's only going to advance. I think that maybe it's kind of at a point now where it's more important than ever. The solution is kind of more important than ever. But in terms of the price action, that's the last thing on my mind. I'm looking for opportunities.
And there was some really great information that I had, and I wanted to save it because it was numbers and where we're at and how much of this capture which Bully may actually touch on with value capture, but like it was insane. Like we are behind, and this is gonna snowball and catch up for sure. Like it's yeah. And I hopefully Bully touches on that, and if not, I hope I can find it because it was really
he'll touch it on the TAM section for sure. Do you have anything else that you guys want to add?
I don't think so. You? Do you, Caveman?
No.
No. Oh wow.
I know you did a great job. Thank you.
Thanks.
So okay, let's hop on over to the timeline, guys. Like what happened, right? This was created, IOTA. I mean, evolved out of a project called Jinn, Jinn, as opposed to Gin Rummy. Before IOTA existed, several of the founders were working on a project called Jinn Labs. Jinn's goal was to develop energy efficient processors, computer chips, okay, for the Internet of Things. So they were really focusing originally on computer chips. While working on Jinn, the founders realized that connected devices also needed a way to exchange money and data. That realization led them to create IOTA as the communication and value transfer layer for the devices. The goal was to build a feeless network for the Internet of Things, where machines could send data and value without normal blockchain fees. Development was funded through an online crowd sale. They raised 1,300 Bitcoin, roughly $500,000 at that time. It was still experimental, not proven adoption yet. Big promises. It was going to be a machine-to-machine economy. 2015 wasn't just the start of another cryptocurrency. The founders invented an entirely different type of distributed ledger called Tangle, which Bully talked about earlier. 2016, the network goes live. IOTA used the Tangle, a DAG structure instead of a traditional blockchain. Bully talked about it, so I'm not going to repeat what he said. The idea was that every new transaction helps confirm earlier transactions, allowing for feeless microtransactions. The technology was unusual at the time and unproven. It was harder for outsiders to evaluate than Bitcoin or Ethereum. Security and decentralization questions existed early because the design was not battle tested. Now, after launching in 2016, IOTA spent much of the year in public beta testing. This meant developers were testing the network. Bugs and performance issues were being found. The project was proving that the Tangle could work outside of a lab. Now, during 2016, people could be sending IOTA directly to each other. The network processed real transactions between real users. This helped validate that the Tangle could function in practice. Although activity was relatively small, it marked the transition from a concept to an actual working network. The first IOTA white paper was published, one of the biggest technical milestones. Dr. Sergey Popov published the first IOTA white paper in April of 2016. The paper basically explained that what Tangle was, how transactions were going to be validated, why IOTA believed it could scale better than traditional blockchains, and also why the network could operate without miners and transaction fees. 2017, hype. It was a hype year. A lot of confusion. A lot of things going on. IOTA gained major attention during the 2017 crypto bull market. It launched a data marketplace pilot for IoT data. Forbes reported that the new initiative had gathered participation from more than 20 global organizations. These included Deutsche Telekom, Bosch, Microsoft, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Accenture, and Fujitsu, along with universities from around the world. Then the Microsoft partnership became controversial because the critics argued it was not a formal partnership in the way investors understood it was going to be. Also, MIT Digital Currency Initiative researchers disclosed that potential security flaws in IOTA's old curl-p hash function was something that was a little bit skeptical. IOTA received backlash for how it handled the security criticism. IOTA created its own cryptographic hash function called curl-p instead of using a well-tested industry standard. Independent security researchers, they found the weakness, and the researchers warned it was going to be risky. Now, they could have just said, let us look into it. And instead, they kind of pushed back. They argued in the public, and this obviously didn't bode well for them. Eventually, IOTA Foundation replaced curl-p with a stronger industry standard cryptographic function. In 2017, they put IOTA on the map. It was big announcements, big excitement, and very big scrutiny. There was the REF Unite, or REF Unite partnership. IOTA partnered with them, the world's largest missing persons database for displaced families. The goal was to explore how IOTA could help refugees reconnect with missing family members and using secure digital identities. Later in 2017, early token holders voluntarily donated 5% of the token supply to help fund what became the IOTA Foundation. So 5% of the tokens were given to the foundation to help fund it. IOTA became available on every major cryptocurrency exchanges, or most of them, I should say. I shouldn't say every. This dramatically increased the liquidity, the trading volume, the public awareness. It also contributed to IOTA's becoming one of the largest cryptocurrencies by market cap, like I said, top 10 market cap in 2017. Satoshi Pay was also announced. Plans to transition from Bitcoin towards IOTA because Bitcoin transaction fees had become too expensive for very small payments. This supported IOTA's thesis that feeless transactions could enable microtransactions. Robert Bosch Venture Capital made its first cryptocurrency investment by purchasing a significant amount of IOTA tokens. And why this mattered was because Bosch wasn't just experimenting with blockchain, it put capital into IOTA at a very, like 2017, which was unheard of. That gave the project credibility within the industrial IoT sector. Cognite IOTA, COGN, IOTA, announced a proposed decentralized machine learning service. The idea was users could rent out unused computing power, sounds a little familiar, and they could earn IOTA and contribute to AI workloads. And this was an early attempt to combine AI and cryptos years before today's AI token trend. There was Flash channels, which was introduced. These allowed instant payments, a high transaction throughput, and payments between two parties without waiting for every transaction to settle on the main network. There was also security criticism. Researchers from MIT already talked about it. There was that. 2018, IOTA Foundation was formally chartered as a Stiftung, it's German, in Berlin. IOTA became involved with organizations such as INATBA, Trusted IoT Alliance, and MOBI. Volkswagen joined the IOTA Foundation's supervisory board. Volkswagen wasn't just experimenting with IOTA's technology. One of its top executives became involved in helping oversee the foundation. At CeBIT in 2018, Volkswagen demonstrated a proof of concept using IOTA's Tangle to securely verify over-the-air software updates for their vehicles. This strengthened IOTA's reputation in the automotive industry. As for Fujitsu, they demonstrated IOTA technology at industrial trade fairs and announced plans to use IOTA in manufacturing and audit trail applications. Cubic was also announced. One of the biggest technical announcements, IOTA introduced Cubic, which was a vision for adding smart contracts, distributed computing, outsourced computations, Oracle functionality to the IOTA ecosystem. This was IOTA's answer to platforms like Ethereum or EOS. However, many parts of Cubic, honestly, guys, it took years to materialize. More than 10 million worth of IOTA tokens were stolen that year from users who used a malicious online seed generator. This was not a core protocol hack, but it badly hurt the trust. And another bad thing that happened in 2018 towards the end, University of College London ended its relationship with IOTA Foundation. Obviously, they were going after the universities, so this was not, a great look. In 2019, IOTA continued pushing the IoT and mobility use cases. Jaguar Land Rover announced an earn as you drive concept involving IOTA-style smart wallet ideas. There was also a Fireware partnership, which worked with software used by a lot of this stuff is forward thinking, guys. It's things that we are starting to talk about now. Okay, so well before their time. It was software used by smart cities to help connected devices securely share information. Chronicle Permanode created permanent storage so businesses could keep and retrieve transaction records for audits and compliance. Fast probabilistic consensus research developed and tested a new way for the network to reach agreement without relying on one central authority. Priority Partnership used IOTA to improve food safety by tracking ingredients and allergens through the supply chain. Climate KIC collaboration worked on sustainability and environmental projects using trusted digital data. And the City Exchange Smart Cities project helped develop smarter cities by improving energy management, buildings, and infrastructure. In October 2019, Project Alvarium, which was Dell Technologies and Linux Foundation. The IOTA Foundation collaborated with Dell Technologies and Linux Foundation on Project Alvarium. The goal was to create Data Confidence Fabric, a system that lets business verify whether data can be trusted before actually using it. Attempting to solve major issues, many companies have data, but you don't know if it's accurate. Project Alvarium aimed to give every piece of data a trust score. IOTA announced work with ST Microelectronics. The objective was to integrate IOTA into STM32 microcontrollers so that millions of IoT devices could communicate directly with Tangle. For those of you guys who don't know, STM32 chips are used in appliances, industrial equipment, smart sensors, consumer electronics. So definitely a lot of things that we all have in our homes.
That is so cool.
Right? IOTA partnered with Zulk. We're going to go with Zulk. The companies explored a platform where businesses could rent expensive industrial machines from each other using IOTA. Also sounds familiar. Engineering company EDAG Group unveiled its CityBot concept using IOTA. The vision, again, forward thinking, autonomous robots could deliver goods, perform city maintenance, while communicating and paying each other through IOTA. One of the biggest negatives of 2019 was co-founder Sergey Ivancheglo. He resigned from IOTA Foundation board after disagreements with the founders. This exposed the internal leadership problems, and it won't be the last time you're going to hear this. 2020, in February, hackers exploited a vulnerability in a third-party integration, MoonPay, used by the official Trinity wallet. What happened, guys? Well, more than 50 user wallets were compromised. Approximately $2 million worth of IOTA was stolen, and the vulnerability was not the IOTA protocol itself, but a third-party component integrated into the wallet. This mattered because even though the blockchain wasn't hacked, it was the official wallet, and users still lost funds. Investors' confidence suffered, and after the Trinity attack, the foundation released migration tools so affected users can move funds from potentially compromised seeds to secure ones. Although the attack came from a third-party integration, many investors remembered only IOTA got hacked because we have this type of blinder when it comes to crypto. We don't actually ask the questions. The entire network was shut down, though. This was one of the most unique events in crypto history. It was to stop the theft, but the IOTA Foundation shut down the coordinator. Because the coordinator secured the network, the entire network effectively stopped processing transactions for several weeks. Now, for those of you guys at home, imagine if a bank found fraud and simply closed every branch and froze every account until it fixed the problem. I mean, that's essentially what happened, which obviously went over like a bag of bricks with the community. Do you guys want to add anything to that? No? Okay. The shutdown proved the critics had argued for years. If one organization can stop the network, then the network is 100% not decentralized. This became one of the biggest blows to IOTA's credibility. The IOTA Foundation and the Eclipse Foundation launched the Tangle EE working group. Its purpose was to help enterprises build commercial applications using IOTA. This was done later that year. Chrysalis was announced, which is one of the changes. The foundation introduced Chrysalis Roadmap. The goal was to completely modernize IOTA. It included faster transactions, improved wallets, easier development, better security, enterprise readiness. The IOTA Foundation officially announced as well that year that it parted ways with co-founder David Sonstabeo because of disagreements over leadership and strategic direction. David had been one of the original founders. He was the chairman, but Dominic Schneier became the undisputed public leader of IOTA. The foundation from that moment on shifted toward enterprise adoption, governance, digital identity, tokenization, infrastructure. Many investors viewed this as the beginning of what we now know as the modern IOTA. IOTA announced work toward removing the coordinator through the broader Coordicide roadmap. You guys can do the math. COORDICIDE, Coordicide. The Eclipse Foundation and IOTA Foundation launched Tangle EE, as I said earlier. In February 2020, IOTA shut down the coordinator after the Trinity Wall attack, which wasn't great. And then in 2021, IOTA launched the Chrysalis, which I just said, network upgrade on April 28, 2021. Chrysalis rewrote major parts of the protocol and removed controversial older design choices like tyranny encoding and Winternit's one-time signatures. Chrysalis complementary upgraded the network, faster transactions, better security. The foundation released the Firefly wallet. It replaced the older Trinity wallet that had been compromised. Firefly was supposed to be more secure, easier to use, and it was built from scratch. It designed for future staking and also smart contracts. Every IOTA holder had to migrate their tokens to the Chrysalis network using Firefly. Why did this matter? Well, the migration allowed users to benefit from the upgraded network, but it also created some short-term complexity for holders, specifically those who didn't know how to do that. March 2021, IOTA released the IOTA Smart Contracts Alpha. For the first time, developers could begin building decentralized apps or dApps on IOTA. In April 2021, IOTA announced a partnership with Crypto Finance AG. The goal was to help institutional investors access IOTA more easily through regulated financial infrastructure. In July, IOTA launched an NFT marketplace on its development network. And why this mattered? Well, this showed IOTA wanted to participate in NFTs, digital assets, and creator economies. In October, they released the Smart Contracts beta. These new capabilities included smart contracts, Ethereum virtual machine compatibility, Solidity, and Go and Rust support with configurable execution fees. Now, before this, IOTA was mostly a payment and data network. Now, developers could start building applications similar to Ethereum. In September, Shimmer Mainnet launched. This was the biggest event of the year. Shimmer became IOTA's official staging network. Instead of testing new features directly on the main IOTA network, where billions of dollars could be at risk, the team created Shimmer as a testing ground. Along with the new network came the SMR token. People who had previously staked IOTA received SMR tokens. The new token gave developers and users an incentive to test applications, experiment with new features, stress test upgrades before they actually reached the main network. Community governance also began. The foundation introduced community voting for Shimmer ecosystem funding. The IOTA Foundation published its From One to Many vision strategy. Now, instead of having one blockchain do absolutely everything, they had IOTA, they had Shimmer, and then future application-specific chains would work together as a new ecosystem. In 2023, October, Stardust mainnet upgrade. The Stardust upgrade was the biggest technical event of the year. So what changed? Well, native token support, native NFTs, better smart asset functionality, improved wallet capabilities, and more developer-friendly architecture. Instead of only transferring IOTA tokens, developers could now create and manage NFTs, custom digital assets. As a side note, we talked about it a little bit earlier, Wewo and I, the Stardust upgrade increased token supply. Inflation is also never great. The foundation announced that year one of the biggest economic changes in IOTA's history, a new ecosystem fund, temporary inflation, and increased token supply. The fund wanted to help developers. They wanted to create grants. They wanted to have ecosystem growth and have community projects. Instead of relying only on donations, IOTA created new tokens to help finance future development. IOTA created the IOTA Ecosystem DLT Foundation in Abu Dhabi. It became the first DLT foundation registered under the new regulatory framework of the Abu Dhabi global market. Funding, the foundation was seeded with over $100 million worth of IOTA tokens, which is going to be released over 4 years. They wanted to support developers, businesses, governments, real-world asset tokenization, and Middle East expansion, which they did in spades. Ecosystem Fund was created. The foundation introduced also IOTA chains. Their goal was to allow developers to build customized layer 2 blockchains secured by IOTA. In 2024, June, IOTA launched the IOTA EVM. Developers could now build Ethereum-compatible applications using familiar tools. The ecosystem now supported Stargate, Layer 0, and Pyth Network. They did want to do a tokenization push for RWAs. IOTA made tokenization one of its biggest priorities. The focus included tokenized assets, digital identity, digital product passports, trade finance, and enterprise infrastructure. IOTA even partnered with Tenity to launch a real-world asset accelerator, and with Eviden in introducing the Eviden Digital Passport Solutions, or the EDPS. This was to track battery materials, manufacturing history, repairs, recycling, carbon footprint using IOTA. In November, the foundation unveiled IOTA's Rebased. This is a big one. The largest architectural redesign since IOTA was created. What changed? Well, the proposed network would include Move VM smart contracts, validators, which Bully was talking about earlier, staking, full programmability, better scalability, and improved developer experience. It marked a move away from IOTA's original architecture toward a more modern layer 1 blockchain. Now, many of these were still prototypes, pilots, or early commercial solutions, not a proof of huge revenue. IOTA was still not among the top chains by user activity, by TVL, or by developer mindshare. In 2025, Rebased mainnet launches on May 5th. IOTA introduced, as I said, the Move VM, validators, delegated staking, smart contracts built directly on a layer 1, object-centric architecture, and a completely new consensus mechanism. Rebase was another major architectural pivot, meaning IOTA was again asking the market to believe in a new version of the project. IOTA announced the Rebase mainnet upgrade beginning on May 5th, from Stardust to a new network using MoveVM. MoveVM put IOTA into direct competition with stronger momentum move-based chains like Sui and Aptos. Staking went live for the first time. IOTA holders could stake their tokens on the main network. Validator network launched before Rebase there were no traditional validators. One of the biggest criticisms of IOTA for years was the coordinator. Well, with Rebase, the coordinator was removed. Validation became decentralized through validators. They also launched a business innovation program offering £100,000 per applicant for businesses building on IOTA Power products. In 2026, at the beginning of 2026, the foundation published the IOTA Manifesto. They should have published the Peanut Butter Manifesto in 2015, but I digress. At the beginning of 2026, they published the IOTA Manifesto. It's no longer positioning itself primarily as the Internet of Things blockchain. Instead, it wants to become the digital infrastructure for global trade, customs, logistics, supply chains, trade finance, and trusted business data. In layman's terms, instead of building a network mainly for smart devices, IOTA now wants to build the digital infrastructure that helps countries and businesses move goods around the world more efficiently. That is what they want to do. One of the IOTA's flagship projects, the trade, and Wewo talked about that at the very beginning. I'll reserve my judgment, but I think you should listen. One of IOTA's flagship projects, Trade Worldwide Information Network, or TWIN, moved from development into operational deployment. Its founding partners included the World Economic Forum, the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change, Trademark Africa, and the Global Alliance for Trade Facilitation, bringing IOTA's initiative substantially more policy and trade sector credibility than a project backed by only a random crypto native company. Starfish Consensus Advanced, the foundation rolled out Starfish Consensus to the testnet, and this matters because Starfish is designed to make the network faster, more secure, more scalable before it reaches the main network. IOTA Names also launched. That's IOTA Names. That's the name of it. Instead of sending assets to a long wallet address like X35729531578XPJ, that's actually my wallet. If you guys want to write that down, you can now just use simple human readable names. IOTA launched a 6-panel expert advisory board as well. Members between 17 and 40 years of experience are bringing their expertise from logistics, trade, global supply chains, and enterprise technology. There are 6 of those people on the expert advisory board for IOTA. The biggest setbacks, obviously, just to give you a little brief recap, if you just came in, security criticism in 2017, Curl P, the seed generator theft, they lost $10 million. Coordinator centralization because of, obvious. 2020 Trinity wallet hack, $2 million was lost. The founders were at odds. The 2 of them left. So these are founding members. They're gone, no longer. And then the repeated technical resets, Chrysalis, Stardust, now Rebased. Those are 3 big pivots. So that is IOTA in a bow.
Do you have anything to add?
You're muted.
I guess maybe I would just disagree. Not disagree, but I don't think they completely pivoted away from IoT. I think that they strategically know that. So here's the thing. Listen guys, there's 50 billion devices waiting to come online. I think they understand and they know that 2017, they were way too forward thinking. So that whole thesis is not abandoned. They're waiting. But in the meantime, they shifted their focus because they, with Twin and Adapt, they shifted to try to capitalize on the $35 trillion market that exists right now. So I think that, and I'm not trying to get into bully stuff here because I think this is going to maybe go into that a little bit, but I think that their value capture is trying to be strategic and still capture both. So I would just disagree that they shifted away from that and to, and more just waiting for and gapping that bridge. That's all I'll say.
I'm going to double down with you as well. TLIP, Trade Logistics Information Platform. This is kind of another thing that I think is really supporting IOTA's thesis. Essentially, it's kind of just what's helping trade logistics kind of with data and documents move more efficiently between the two parties. And another thing that is really important is the digital passports.
Yeah.
Digital product passports.
So Twin digitizes the paperwork that moves physical goods across borders. A single international shipment can require 36 documents, 240 copies, and signatures from 27 different people. Twin puts all of those on IOTA's blockchain. So that's making traditional documents tamper-proof, instantly verifiable, and shareable between customers and agencies. So that's a huge piece of Twin and what that does. And then ADAPT is, I'm trying to get African Trade and Currency. What's the name, bully? ADAPT stands for Africa Digital Asset Platform for Trade, and it was signed between the AFCFTA, the Tony Blair Institute and Global Change, and the World Economic Forum, with IOTA as founding technology partner. The scope is 54 African countries and 1.3 billion people and 70 billion in potential annual intra-Africa trade that currently loses roughly 5 billion every year just to currency conversion fractions alone. Kenya, Morocco, and Nigeria went live with ADAPT pilots on May 19, 2026. So that's huge. That's just huge. And still more to capture from that. So we kind of got into a little bit of value capture, I think, but I don't, yeah.
Yeah, well, again, it kind of does tie into that original thesis of just verifiable information and data and exchanging value between the two. I'm going to agree with you on that. I think that they have expanded their overall capabilities, but I don't believe that they've abandoned the original machine economy.
No, they're waiting for that to come online.
Yeah, and maybe it's more relevant now than ever. You're starting to see humanoid robots, and I'm not even sure if they have any kind of confirmed partnerships or integrations with, I guess, retail robotics that you kind of starting to see hit the market and people are ordering for their homes, but you would think. Maybe.
And so the data that I saw, 2027 is going to be a big time for this market. 2030, again, 2030, and then 2035. So I see this growing all the way until then. But yeah, I think that, and so what I read and what I understand is that it's going to be a snowball effect. Like the catch up is going to start very quickly and it's just going to go. I mean, yeah. But IoT is not abandoned, in my opinion.
Do we have something for compliance and regulations? Would you
Yes.
would you like to jump into that quick?
Let's see here. Regulatory position, let's see. The IOTA Foundation is a German nonprofit operating out of Berlin under the EU and MiCA framework, IOTA is not classified there as a security. In the UK, the picture, of course, we don't know about the United States yet. We have nothing. It wasn't part of the 16. But in the UK, the picture is much more active. The foundation submitted a formal response to the FCA guidance on crypto asset staking and DeFi regulation in Q1 of 2026. As already covered, Shahad is second from the UK Cabinet Office directly to IOTA's twin development work. The UK Digital Trade Testbed has been processing real trade transaction on IOTA's mainnet since January 2026. The global frameworks, the foundation submitted detailed feedback on the OECD crypto asset reporting framework in both the EU and Hong Kong contexts. IOTA is partnered with STAND with Crypto EU and European policy engagement. The AFCFTA partnership includes regulatory frameworks for digital currencies and stablecoin settlements. Add-up national implementations require compliance with each country's specific digital trade regulation, which means the foundation is building regulatory compliance into the protocol's development model in Africa in real time. And of course, the gap there is the United States, but that's not any fault of ours, but because we're just behind. Yeah, that's what I have for compliance and regulation.
Overall, you feel pretty confident in terms of regulatory approval?
Yeah, I think so, definitely. And it's definitely moving in that direction of, I mean, it's very regulated in the EU and, Africa, obviously. But competitors, did you want to talk about competitors, or do you want to just
Go ahead.
leave that one out?
Let's run it.
So I think the two biggest competitors, I would say, are Hedera and DAG, Constellation DAG. But also I will just add that the Hedera is not even in the same mindset. Like, it has no interest in going after or for what IOTA is doing. And then DAG is, again, not really positioned to or wanting to. I mean, I guess you can say there's other ones too that kind of, tip in, like Ethereum and XRP and other ones that could but have no interest in. So in my opinion, in the research that I did, there's really nothing that is there except for Hedera. But again, they are not integrated with, ADAP and the places that it is, and not really wanting that sector. So yeah, for me, that's great. Like, that's one of the things that I personally look at is who are their competitors, and, is it really actually competition? And I didn't find that it was.
Can I jump into TAM?
Yeah, definitely. The only exchanges that I know that it's on, somebody asked, is Uphold. And sorry, there's IOTA, there's wrapped IOTA, and that's the wrong IOTA. That's not it. Go ahead.
Okay. So for the total addressable market, typically we're kind of looking at how big is the opportunity that IOTA is actually trying to attempt to go after. So we're going to look at the industries that IOTA is trying to participate in, and then we're going to add everything up, and we're going to try to give you guys an honest total addressable market. So the first market you have is IoT, Internet of Things, right? This is IOTA's original thesis. And the idea is that these machines and devices and sensors, all of these different digital systems are going to become more connected. And if the world does have billions of connected devices, those devices are going to need a way to communicate and share data and verify the data. So the estimates for IoT is sitting somewhere around 40 billion by the year of 2030, and this is growing at an 8% year over year. The second market that I have is the global trade and supply chains. And I think that this might be one of the most important markets for IOTA today, because the global trade is sitting at around $34 trillion today in 2025, which is growing at on average a 7% year over year. The third market I have is the digital product passports. Again, I think it's a major opportunity for IOTA. And this is basically saying that you need to have these digital records that are attached to real physical products. So if a company needs to prove wherever a product comes from or what materials were utilized or how it was made, it's basically the product data that is being integrated into the infrastructure, and they do need a way to be able to verify and trust those data records. That's sitting at 1.78 billion by 2030. The next market we have is tokenization, and these numbers are constantly changing. These are your typical financial assets that are being represented digitally. Okay, these estimates really vary, but we're going to go 2 trillion by 2030, and surprisingly, 45% year over year, and this is without including stablecoins. Okay. Now, I think tokenization, whether or not IOTA does inevitably get a lot of trust or demand in terms of the tokenization is another thing, but we do need a way to verify or trust the data that is kind of being integrated into these financial assets. So again, we're looking at roughly $2 trillion by 2030. The fifth market I thought was really important is digital identity. This is sitting at $132 billion by 2031 with 20% year over year growth. So roughly, I'm gonna say roughly a total evaluation I'm looking at is about $38 trillion for IOTA. But there are several major markets that I think IOTA is jumping into. And I think if you pay attention, I think a lot of these numbers are kind of forecasted, right? You're looking at 2030 and plus with pretty good year over year growth. So I think that this is a very big market for IOTA. If I can, I'd like to jump into how the actual token dynamics work.
Yes,
right?
please.
So how does IOTA actually capture value? So what the IOTA token is actually doing inside of this ecosystem and what kind of demand is going to create pressure, I guess, for that actual token. So the first thing is that IOTA is used for fees. Okay, so whenever people are sending transactions or using the applications, there are gas fees. So that network activity does have a direct connection to the token. So more network activity, the more fees that are going to be created. The second thing is you have staking, right? The staking is kind of utilized to secure the network. So these validators are processing the transactions and securing the network. So the token inside of the ecosystem is kind of used as a security model, right, for the network. The third aspect that we have is fee burning. Okay, so IOTA has these stake rewards. So these new tokens are going to be issued as rewards for the staking, but the transaction fees are also burned. So there is a inflation from the rewards, but there's also a deflationary pressure from the network activity. So if the activity is low, then the burn probably isn't going to matter very much, right? If the activity is high, then the burn fee can kind of become a little bit more powerful or meaningful. So whether or not it has a strong value capture model, I think it's actually stronger than it used to be. The token does have real roles inside of the ecosystem. When you compare it to some of the other utility projects, I think that the value capture for IOTA is a little bit more conditional. If IOTA's infrastructure kind of becomes successful for the trade product passport, tokenization, identity, machine to machine, then yeah, I think that the token is going to benefit a lot. But if those use cases kind of stay smaller and they don't continue to expand year over year, I'm not sure you're going to get enough demand through the fees, right? The value capture is not going to be as strong as the TAM might make it sound, right? What we really need here is we need adoption, okay? That's really what we need. If that is the case, the token should benefit more than we would have under the old model. Overall, I think it's a fair value capture model. It's probably not my favorite, but I think that it is. It does have some real purposes in here. You just need adoption, and you need integrations for their use
After
cases.
So after rebased, there's no more fixed like maximum supply. Do you think that it will affect it?
Say that one more time.
So after rebased, the last change in their in the infrastructure, there's no more max fixed supply.
Absolutely.
So do you think that
Absolutely.
changes things?
Absolutely. Yeah. Inevitably, with the staking and the fees, you kind of have to see whether or not they're going to even out. If they don't, then it could be a problem in terms of pure supply and demand dynamics. Yeah, it could. What was the staking ratio? Was it 50%?
It was a little 50%, a little over 50%. Yeah, it was pretty high. Let me go back to tokenomics here.
Well, 11% a year, right? Okay, so 50% of it is 11% a year.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's going to change in the future. You're figuring half of the supply is out, and it's a pretty high yield people are earning. Probably going to change in the future. That could also really impact supply and demand.
For those at home, does that say 11% APY?
It says 11%.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Where are we at now?
Pros, cons.
Wewo?
Want to get started?
Okay. So the good, rebased, upgraded. Let's see. The network is considered genuinely decentralized now. Starfish consensus went live on mainnet. Adapt, Kenya, all that stuff. Let's see. The UK Cabinet Office staff working operationally on audit trails toolkit launched July. The 11% APY. 50,000 tips, 400 millisecond finality, and the move make it technically competitive for any layer one on the market today. The whale accumulation on May 29th during the 14% rally. The bad, DeFi TVL is 12 to 16 million for 10 years. There is no classification in the United States, so no spot ETFs, no CME futures. The developer community is small. The Nakamoto coefficient of 7 with top 10 validators controlling 43.6%. The market cap of 198 million is one of the lowest in the top 100 for the projects of its age. IOTA is down 99% from its all-time high, and that it took 8 years for them to get rid of the coordinator validator or node. So, and of course that whole like Microsoft Bosch partnership in 2017 that actually didn't really pan out. So it gave them kind of a bad rap, but that's my good, bad, and ugly.
Buddy?
Yeah, I think that they have a very strong thesis. I think that there is going to be some real need for trusted, verified information, and I think that they probably are going to be able to pull it off if they continue moving in the right direction. They have a massive TAM. The supply trade infrastructure aspect to it, I think, is going to be a really big need for that as well. It's a utility coin, right? There's real world use cases for it, and for the cons, I think that they really have to execute it properly, right? There needs to be adoption. I think that the history of delays are probably something that has hurt them. I think that a lot of people have diverted a lot of their attention. Um, the value capture is better, not my absolute favorite. And the fee structure for it, I think that it's going to just require massive amounts of activity. Okay, man.
So this is the point in the show where I usually do a different way of evaluating a project, right? So I would go into like Metcalfe's law. I would talk about NVT ratio. I would talk about velocity model. These are all methods in economics to evaluate something. Here's the problem. I can't. I mean, I can. I can tell you exactly what it is. Somewhere around 5.2 for all three. The reason I can't, and the reason why I'm not going to do it this time, is because the problem with this, the actual problem with this project is that they change everything all the time. They have the entire history of this project. People have been at odds. They've changed the spots, and in crypto, when a project changes its spots, it's really hard to regain um, an identity, and moreover, a investor community coming back. You don't have to believe me. Let's pull up the chart. The chart tells you exactly what you need to know. $5.03. That's not because of a that's not a um, that's not because of normal velocity. That's not because of normal volatility. The problem is that there was internal conflict. The problem that there wasn't direction with the company, and the problem is that there wasn't a clear direction on where they're headed. I said at the beginning of this show that I think that this is a project that was ahead of its time. And there are projects right now that we've talked about that are doing exactly what things they had proposed. Parts of it, I should say. Um, and now this new vision, you guys, you went against me here, but now I'm going to put you on task. You go to iota.org, guys. I encourage you at home. Nowhere, if you go to their focus areas, there's no machines. There's real world assets. There's trade and supply chains. There's digital identity. There's product lifecycle integrity. There's decentralized finance. Will this possibly work for them? 100%. This is a very clear vision of where we're headed. And will they capture part of that? Possibly. But for me, I might see, you talked about major competitors earlier. Major competitor for me would be like IBM's, like Microsoft, like AWS. These are TradFi institutions that have literally perfected the supply chain. Now, does that translate to being good blockchain companies? We don't know. But you damn sure right that they're going to be working on that on the back. They're working on that on the back end. That I can promise you. So will IOTA become a juggernaut in this space for the supply chain for digital identity? Possibly. For me, it's a hard no. I'm giving this a 5.2 at best.
So I'm going to push back a little bit.
Please go.
From a couple different things. So as far as retail money, so you talk a lot about like, trust with retail space and, community backing and, in the end, when utility kicks in, retail's not going to matter.
No,
so for
not at
me,
all. Agreed.
So for me, it doesn't really matter. I mean, I guess you can make money off retail now with the, up and down and consolidation, and you can take your profits. But for me, that doesn't matter. So it's great that they have, integrated and, got these great partnerships with countries at this point. It's not even like, and I'll push back on the ITO. integration, because they are very heavily integrated in ITO, and maybe it doesn't say it on their webpage or whatnot, but there's a whole host of partnerships that they have, ITO. But then you have to think of things on the back end too, like they're going to do, like ITO isn't just, it's sending information all the time, right? So the shipping containers that they're doing paperwork on and documentation
That's
for.
the supply chain that they're talking about.
Sure, I understand. But on top of that, for the ITO part of it, they're going to be giving, live updates on where is the shipping container in the ocean. That's
Sure.
IoT. And then they're also going to be saying, your shipping container is at 37 degrees. That's IoT. So there is a lot of IoT that's going to come along with.
There is overlap. I agree with you 100%. But that's not talking about, your machine, your TV paying your bill on your Samsung provider. You know
And
what I
so
mean? Those are
so
different too.
Yeah. So where specifically are they integrated right now for only IoT, not the rest of the stuff, IoT? So ST Micro Logistics is one company, Bosch XDK sensor devices, autonomous vehicle and car connectors, smart energy, um, industrial robotics, and DPIN. So those are just some of the things that they're into and
They were working
partnered
on.
with, integrated with, yes, that they're currently connected to, and that's just the IoT side of things. I mean, so I just, yeah.
The only thing that makes me want to say, like, it's a fire sale. It was a fire sale as far as who was in charge. So for sure, someone mentioned C-suite. There was no C-suite. Is there now? Sure, a very young person that's respected in the community. That I will say, and now they have that 6-person board. Everybody who's like, I'm not gonna say the who's the who of supply chain, but they come with a lot of experience. 40 years, some of them 40 years plus. So I great that they're building it back up. I love that they have a new vision. I love that the World Economic Forum and the Blair Foundation, I love that they are like throwing their hat in the ring, so to speak, to work with them to bring them to this new. But the problem is, like, we're here and now. We're 2026. Are there other projects out there or other potential opportunities to have a return on your investment? Because at the end of the day, what we're here for is a return on investment. That's it. That's what we're talking about. Long-term investment thesis. Are you going to put your eggs in the basket of, and this is a question. This isn't a statement saying like, don't do it. I'm just saying, like, are you going to put your eggs in a basket with a project that is not as far along as it should be?
I disagree that it's not as far along as it should be.
It keeps recreating itself every couple of years.
I love recreating. I love rebranding. I love it. I think, wow, thank God they didn't let their project die, and they see.
Agreed.
And so here's the other thing, right? Sometimes they're so forward thinking and they're so far ahead of their time. Just wait till it catches up, right? Like, it's like,
Yeah.
Well, you see that with some of your favorite projects. Your favorite projects are developing all of the time. There's probably one that you hold that isn't advancing,
Change the flag.
isn't developing.
Developing and changing your flag completely are two different things.
What?
I guess we see it a little differently. I guess because you see it as changing, and I see it as, I don't see it as they
wanted
abandon.
robots running around paying each other, and that was going to be free money for us. That's what they wanted.
I think it only strengthens the ecosystem that you have: EVM compatibility, smart contracts, the aspect to tokenization. All of these are requirements for this new internet age of where we're running into. I don't necessarily think that them expanding their exposure or ecosystem is necessarily a bad thing. I don't think they're abandoning a vision at all.
Yeah.
Can we be better? Sure. Should we do this? Sure. Does it take away from the progression or the dedication of what the original thesis was? I don't see it that way.
And next year, it's going to be really cool to start putting data centers in the space. Are they going to start doing that? They're going to change. Do you know what I mean? At what point do you stop? At what point do you say, this is what we do very, very well, and we're going to hone into that?
I think
That's
they
my
are
question.
doing that. I think that they have done that and they are doing that. And like I said, I see that where they're at with the 50 billion, products that are coming online, they understand and see now that it's going to be more towards 2030 to 2035. And why not capitalize and expand on the market that is evolving today and now? I think that it would be silly for them to not try to capitalize and capture some of that value instead of watching, yeah.
But yet we shit on the people who would bring NFTs to market and meme coins. Do you know what I mean? Because it's a very similar concept.
And I don't mind NFTs and I don't mind meme coins. And I know that I've shit on them before, but specifically,
I do.
I have a problem with people who are making people believe that there's utility behind them so they can pump their bags and make a profit off them. And granted, I get that it's retail, it's their problem, right? They should have done their own research and they should understand like what it is and what they're investing into. I gamble, Caveman, you know that I send you pictures probably, at least twice a month of me sitting in front of a card table, so you know that I gamble. My husband, we just did roulette. He gambled, he knows he knows what he's doing and he knows what he has to lose. He actually did quite well the other day, speaking of that. But I'm just saying though, it's not that I don't gamble and I'm against that. It's the community more that I'm against, to be honest with you. So
yeah. So guys, I mean, obviously you know where I stand on this. I'm gonna draw that hard line on IOTA.
I already knew it when you came in. When I knew it, didn't I call it bully? I called it.
You listen. Just I'm all for like finding yourself and developing yourself. Like one, I mentioned Peanut Butter Manifesto at the beginning as like a throwaway joke. It's not a joke. Peanut Butter Manifesto is extremely important. Not only to the company that started it, but as just like something that businesses should practice. If you are not, there aren't too many Walmarts out there that are successful. There's only one.
What do you
Walmart's
mean?
like the everything store, right?
Amazon is. I don't even shop at Walmart.
I'm okay. Well, right. And there's, you understand what I'm saying.
No, do you understand what I'm saying?
No. My point is you can't be everything to everybody.
No, and I don't think they're trying to.
How you fail. Almost always.
Do you think that they are attempting to be a general purpose blockchain?
I think that they change their tune when something new and fancy comes around. And that's the problem. That's why you left. That's why two of their founders said, I'm out. I can't do this anymore. It wasn't because they're like, I'm old. I'm done. There was conflict. And that's, I mean, I would love to bring them on right now. I wish they were in the chat. Like,
so do you feel that they have abandoned or failed at their original thesis?
Their original thesis is dead in the water. Now, I agree, Wewo, that there are elements of what you originally wanted to do that you can bring over into supply chain. I agree with that. But the actual like pure vision of what they wanted to create, you're talking about colonizing Mars. Wasn't possible. They're too far ahead.
I don't think so. Yes, I think it's catching up now. I think it's catching up now. I think their original thesis is now catching up. And so you asked a question earlier, would you put your money into? And my answer to that question is, I've been accumulating IOTA before you could buy it. Like I was accumulating it from Mexico. So would I accumulate IOTA? I am. And now guys, it's on uphold. So believe me when I tell you.
Is it
I
anywhere
really
else?
do.
Is it just
I
Uphold?
don't think so. I mean, not that I know of. It could be. And be careful because it says it's on base. I haven't looked into it. It might be, but base is so tricky with like meme stuff. So, and then there's wrapped IOTA. Stay away from that. That is not the right one.
I'm gonna wrap IOTA.
I wrapped it. It's wrapped. It's in my bag. It's packed.
In a doggy doo-doo bag. Okay, so what? I'm curious because I said you guys haven't said your like
Oh, my
evaluation.
score.
I'm at a
Or let
5.2.
you go with your score, bully.
I'm going 5.8. Probably not something I'm going to hold. What
Okay,
did I
and
just I just shock you with that?
Why am I arguing with him? Keep going.
So I hold IOTA. I do lots of it. And bully, my breakdown is on this page. And so that's how I break it down. And I'm at a 6.9 for this one.
That's also like relatively low, considering how much we just argued.
Yeah. It's
like that's.
I mean, I've definitely had.
If you went home and like, hey ma, I got a 69%, you'd be like, yay.
I would die if I got a 69%. I would absolutely not be okay. So
I kind of feel like I just argue with you guys for the sake of arguing now. That's what I think.
no, but I
Yes.
argue my point and I stick to it. I argued my point and I come in and I warned people I'm totally biased about this one. I've been researching this one for a while. It's my top 7, but it is a micro cap and it is super, risky.
Can it be a micro cap if there's no cap?
It's a micro cap. Yeah. And so the ecosystem for me
Micro cap,
was
non-cap, just cap.
just buy the shit out of it. It's cents. No, I'm kidding.
Guys,
I'm joking.
buy the dip. Wait, guys, what's after 3 cents? Is it 2 cents or 1 cent?
Stop it. It's like that for all of them.
Is there a flat line? Wait, is that flat? Is that? Can we? Yeah, I just want to see.
Someday,
oh wait,
guys,
there's a heartbeat. There are 2 heartbeats.
The cool thing about this is one day we're gonna be able to come back to this discussion and screenshot it, and then you're gonna have my little photo there, and I'm gonna be like,
you know what I'm terrified of? I am terrified of the day where I go to a conference, and I come head to head with somebody who saw one of these shows, and it's like, oh, so you're the guy who told me I didn't have a heartbeat. That's me.
I can't wait. I'm just so excited.
I mean, you can't wait. You shouldn't wait. Sorry, I'm so now, guys. We're joking. I'm joking. I'm not. I wouldn't invest in it personally.
Well, I do think that the thesis is strong. I kind of just wonder if the world is moving a little bit slower than people expected for the project. Me personally, it's not really something I want to hold. I like the utility, just not convinced on it. It's kind of where I stand.
AWS does it better.